Skillet Girl here. Today, I am making gumbo. It's part 3 of the gumbo making series. You'll find roux in the information section below and chicken stock in the information section below. Both those links you could click on and it'll go straight to the videos that will give you further information on how to make gumbo. It's as if you guys are in my kitchen with me and I'm teaching you guys something I'm very proud of, and I hope that you guys have a lot of fun with this recipe and that you share it with your friends and family. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do when you're making your gumbo is you're going to go ahead and warm up that chicken stock that you made, and you're going to have room temperature roux. See how it's all nicely cooled off? You don't want hot roux with your chicken stock because it's just going to ball up and cause a hot mess, and you don't want all that. So when you're putting your roux in your chicken stock, you're going to want to whisk it in quickly, because if you don't whisk it in quickly, it's going to ball up. So what I like to do is I just like to pour in my roux in my chicken stock. A little bit at a time, and whisk it quickly. Alright guys, so I've been stirring for a little while and it's just coming together. It's nice and smooth. So this is what about you're going to be looking for once you've been stirring for a little while. You stir it for a couple more minutes just to make sure that it's smoothed out. I like to put the chicken stock in the roux, doing its own thing first, so that it kind of cooks the roux a bit, and then you get all the stuff floating to the top so you can kind of skim it. Now if your roux does ball up in your chicken stock, one easy way to fix it is to take a burr mixer and just to kind of, which is like a hand blender, and you just kind of do that, and that usually smooths out your roux and chicken stock, so that if you have that problem, it usually fixes it. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and chop up all my produce here, cook it in batches, and then like literally dunk it in the pot. You know, about like that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. So now as your chicken stock and your roux mixture is come to a nice boil and then down to a simmer, you're going to want to take off all this stuff that's floating to the top, all this scum or whatever you want to call it, so that you have a smoother, more palatable gumbo. To take it off, and just what you do is you use your ladle or big spoon and you just gently guide it around the top. Okay, so next we're going to put in some garlic, and I know it looks like a lot, but I like a lot of garlic in my gumbo. That's just me. And I know a lot of people pulverize garlic. I like to know that I'm eating garlic, personally. Some people just kind of chop it fine and you don't know it's there. No. Me, I like to know my garlic's there. I like to eat it. I personally like to have it kind of like in slices. Okay, so now we're going to start cooking some of the veggies that we chopped. Add a little bit of veggie oil. We're going to go ahead and cook our onions and our celery. And then while that's being cooked, I'm going to chop up the bell peppers. Oh, also, I forgot to tell you guys, there's another way you can do your veggies. If you don't feel like doing all the cutting, you can use a veggie mix that's frozen. You can find it in your local grocery store. And it has onions, and it has celery, and it has bell peppers, and it's already cut for you. Just so if you're in a kind of a little crunch of time, it's the same thing, but it's already frozen. It saves you time, and it's fine. There's no real difference. Once you cook it, it's about the same. So I thought I would tell you guys that if you're like, oh my god, all this chopping now. There's a way to make it a little bit easier for you busy moms, or if you're just in a crunch of time and you have a lot of stuff to cook. Base for our gumbo. It's pretty pure. A lot of that scum has come out. It makes it a lot easier. Put the chicken in very carefully. Then I'm going to add the bell pepper to the translucent celery and onion. And then we're going to add the sliced up garlic as well. Our parsley. And I kind of have the same sort of opinion about as I do the garlic. I don't like to chop it to death. I actually want to see my food and want to know what it is that I'm eating. So I just kind of go across. To the veggie mix. Then we're going to go ahead and chop one bunch of green onions. So we're going to go ahead and chop the little ends off. And then I just kind of cut it across. And we're going to go ahead and put our green onions in. Stir that in. Let that cook for not terribly long, maybe like 5-10 minutes to kind of give it some extra flavor. So next I'm going to put in some sausage. I prefer Savoie sausage. It's just a really good Louisiana local brand. To me, I think it's the best sausage out there. But you can use whatever sausage works well for you. Now my preference is to go ahead and use hot Cajun sausage with mild Cajun sausage. This is Savoie too, it's just that I took it out of the packaging. So just make sure you have a good quality sausage. So the way that I like to cut my sausage, cut off both ends, kind of cut it in half so it's like a half moon. I think it just looks nicer, or you could just cut it straight across. It depends on your preference. You have pieces that are about like that size. Just whatever size you decide to use, just make sure that your food is all evenly cut so it looks nice and it cooks evenly as well. Alright, so now the veggies are at a good point to go ahead and put them in the gumbo. So I'm going to gently and carefully add that in. You don't want to just like dunk it in there too much because it could plop back and burn the heck out of you. Look how beautiful that is. That's so lovely. Alright, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to cook the sausage a bit so it gets a nice little caramelized crust on it, which will really increase the flavor like a whole lot. Super hot pan, which seals in the flavor and intensifies the yumminess factor. So I'm going to go ahead and let that cook for about 8 to 10 minutes on like a medium heat, and then I'm going to put it in the gumbo pot. And now that our sausage has gotten absolutely delicious, this is what you're looking for, okay? When you're cooking your sausage, you're looking for that fantastic crust on your sausage, because that caramelization and that crust is how your flavor in your gumbo is going to get so good. So you're going to want to do that. So now I'm going to put the sausage in the gumbo. Again, being careful and doing it slow. Don't get in there away from you so you don't burn yourself. So now I'm going to go ahead and stir that. And it's coming. Now we're going to add our seasonings. I tried to think of seasonings that would definitely complement the gumbo and keep it simple for you so you're not going through your cabinet and just like going crazy with all these 50,000 seasonings. I like to use Worcestershire sauce, sea salt, bay leaves, hot sauce. I prefer crystal hot sauce. It just tastes a lot better to me. I use Italian seasoning, Creole seasoning, preferably Sasheries because it's just a better product. And also freshly cracked peppercorns. Okay, so now we're going to add Worcestershire sauce. All these things that I add, I want you to do it to taste. To taste means adding the amount that makes sense to you, that as you're tasting your gumbo, you know how much to put in. It's an individualistic thing, so there's no real measurement on these seasonings. Now the bay leaves, you don't want to go too crazy. You don't want to put any more than like 3 or 4 in there, otherwise your whole gumbo will just taste like bay leaf. Freshly cracked pepper. Some Sasheries. Italian seasoning. Oh, like a good capful or 2 is always good. And I'm going to taste it again. That's much better. And not to mention also, as you're making this, you realize that it's going to reduce down. And I like to reduce it for at least 3 to 5 hours on a really low fire. We're talking the lowest that it can goest. Because low and slow is how you get your gumbo to taste amazing. Reducing it is part of what condenses the flavors and what gets things to like taste amazing. Our gumbo has been simmering for about 5 or 6 hours on a pretty low heat. And it's thickened up really nicely. So now the last step that I like to do is add a 28 ounce bag of frozen cut okra. Go ahead and add the whole bag. And just stir it in and turn it off. It's going to continue cooking because the gumbo is really hot, and I find you don't get the stringy effect from gumbo when you just add it in and you turn it off. And I just stir it in and I let it cool off, and then I properly refrigerate it. So here comes my favorite part. All my hard work is totally worth it. I can't wait. Got my spoon. That is so good. I'm gonna eat more of this. Sausages.